I am pleased to welcome Mike Skrypnek, best-selling author, international speaker, and transformational business coach to my podcast today. His most recent and fifth book, available on Amazon, Entrepreneur Secrets to a Grow, Get, Give Life, is the guide for mid-career business owners seeking a better business, a great life, and even bigger impact. And we're going to talk more about that today. Mike is an expert in advising entrepreneurs in both their personal and professional journey to help them realize their best life. Mike's conducted hundreds of keynotes, presentations, workshops to inspire and train thousands of business owners, both in Canada and in the United States. And his Grow, Get, Give philosophy helps guide impacted business-minded owners so that they can work on a great business that gives them the life they want to live. Thank you so much for joining me today, Mike.
Hi, I'm glad to be here, Marie. Good to be here.
You know, when I read your Grow, Get, Give book, it jumped out to me in a variety of ways. You have a ton of awesome and amazing and helpful tips, but you also have a similar background to myself. You've been a financial advisor for 22 years and then pivoted, as they say, to becoming a business coach. I'm coming up on that number myself as a financial advisor in my focus point planning business, but I'm curious, what happened that made you shift into this business coaching career?
Well, thank you. There was a long story to get to that point, but at the end of the day, I had achieved a certain level of success doing a very, very unique thing in terms of the type of business I was doing in the financial service industry, helping people give back instead of hoard capital. And I was at a point where my business was 10 times bigger at the time from the financial crisis to that point. I was taking 3 months off a year, enjoying my family, and we had this massive impact charitably as well. And it was just that moment where I had spoken with so many baby boomers that I helped guide to that point in their own financial lives that I realized that I wish I would have known this 20 years ago. And not only was I sharing things that they learned then that they wished they knew, but they shared things with me that they knew then as entrepreneurs they would have wished they knew before. And I thought, boy, you know what? It's fulfilling to me to see if I can help those people 20 years earlier, 20 years younger maybe, have the same kind of impact that these people were making then. Imagine the leverage if I could do that 20 years earlier. So I just changed course. I was pretty fulfilled in what I was doing, but I wasn't loving the investment management side of it. But I really loved the problem solving and entrepreneur, growth side of it. So for me, that was just my passion.
That's awesome. It's a little bit like when we think about our children and we wish we could save them some of the pain that we went through. And it sounds like you kind of think of that way with your business coaching clients as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm not going to prevent people from having their own share of challenges because everyone's going to make their own mistakes. But there are some really, really obvious potholes that you can avoid. And, there are lots of people like me who can guide you through that. And if you can get that guidance, you should.
Yes, and I think you were clever in coming up with, we all tend to think in sound bites these days, right? And something short and sweet and attention getting and yet very true. So your Grow, Get, Give philosophy, how did that kind of evolve to be something that you felt would be really valuable to share?
Well, for me, I was saying what my leap off to coaching was. If I go back to where it all kind of started, where I built that curve of where I had that success is back in 2008. The world was a scary place as well. In the financial service industry, quite frankly, it felt like an entire global collapse was occurring. And we tended into what we've experienced recently, but it was really, really scary. And here I was on the radio 5 times a day telling people how great the future could be, but at the same time with a smile trying to say, well, Lehman Brothers just went down. And, I was given all this bad news. I was like the Grim Reaper. And it was some of the hardest time because I realized at that moment my business wasn't the business I always wanted it to be. And here I was 5 days a week living, Gordon Gekko Wall Street type of a life. And then on my weekends and evenings, I was enjoying my family, community give back, and coaching soccer. And, I had enough. And so I said, well, how can charity was the thing that meant a lot to me. And I said, how can I give $1 million? What a big idea. What about $1 million to charity for the rest of my life? How about that? And I stuck that up there on my whiteboard. And I said, okay, I'm going to build a business that allows me to do that. I didn't know anything about it, didn't have any money to give like that. And, I had everybody I wanted to serve were actually people who thought I was the fox in the hen house, charities, net worth donors. They didn't want to talk to financial service people. They didn't even trust us. Right. So here I was trying to figure out how to position myself in a business that was there to serve and there to help others. And that journey to get to the point where, a lot of people's businesses were decimated at that point. And 6 years later, my business was 10 times bigger and I had achieved a lot and I was able to give $12.5 million back to charity. So we had accomplished a lot. And then what I realized is I learned some very, very important rules. I went out and sought coaches, read books, got training, everything I could do to learn the things I didn't know. I took those good ideas, implemented them, and they worked. So what happened for me, it was almost like this. It started with a big impact idea. So that's my give back. But what I needed to do was figure out how to grow my business, how to market, how to position, how to sell, attract the right people. And all of that was part of my grow your business side of things. And I call it your mountain of credibility, how you build your mountain of credibility. Then we have this, you become a victim of your success, right? You end up working a lot. And I wasn't really good at keeping good people, hiring good people. And the reason is because I was really bad at it. It wasn't that people were bad. And so I had to learn how to, get the right people in place, build processes and put systems in place so I could get freedom. And by that 6th year, I was also taking 3 months off a year, making more money than I'd ever had at that time. And we had bigger impact. So grow your business kind of begat get more freedom, because I needed more freedom so I could enjoy my life and think more and create more. And so grow, get, give was almost a natural, kind of chronologically natural, but for everybody it's different. Some people are making just fine. They're making the money they need to make, but they just can't get out from underneath their work. They're just too, overwhelmed by 24/7. So they might need more get, right? But in some cases, they may have plenty of freedom. They just know that if they did more with their message, they could sell more, earn more, work with the right people. So they might need more grow. So these things actually have become more like levers than they flowing thing. It's whatever you need most, you pull on that lever.
That's one thing that I really enjoyed about your book, because each of the 3 areas has 20 to 30 tips under each subject area. So in the grow area, we can go down the checklist and, yep, done that. Oh no, I need to do that. And I know one of the things that I just found to be really true out of your 30 tips under the grow area was meeting people. The more you can meet people, the more you grow yourself, and certainly opportunities and windows open for helping others is that much more enhanced.
Yeah, I even talk about, the simple act of meeting someone on a plane. And I know we're not even flying these days, but how often are you just the last thing you want to do is get to know the person beside you? And quite frankly, I'm a bit like that too. And one of the best ways to, get people not to talk is say, well, I sell insurance for a living. No one wants to talk. But
or saying you're a financial advisor works pretty well too most of the time.
Exactly. It's like everybody's quiet. But when you have opportunities to open the conversation, and I do, and I think in that book, I do share the secrets of, some tips on if it's not working out, you can just cut and run. You don't have to engage in that you're not connecting with. But you're absolutely right, meeting new people. And interestingly enough, I've met more people I don't know, in a mass way because of the online relationship that we're having with Zoom and everything else these days, because there's just so many 2-dimensional faces, but there's so much more to everybody. It's been an interesting time.
Sometimes a blessing in disguise, perhaps.
It is. I mean, you and I met in a platform, an online platform, and here we are.
Right. Thank you, C-Suite, right?
Thank you, C-suite.
So the grow was the first aspect. How about the give? You talk about some freedom rules in the give area, and I think you've got like 28 tips in there. And I know hiring a business coach is one of the tips.
Well, there's grow, have all those tips, and then and that was my mountain of credibility. And in the get, I have something I call freedom rules. And you have to build these things because you will go crazy as a business owner. You're going to be inundated so much by owning everything. And then if you've built it, especially if you're self-made or if you own the business, maybe you have staff, but you have this ownership level that doesn't give you permission to let other people handle it. Because quite frankly, we're all better at everything anyways, because we ran our business, right? We can sweep the floors better and we can market better. Whatever it is, we probably can do it better, but we shouldn't. Right? We're not all cut out for very specific tasks, and we shouldn't do the things that we're not really skilled at or we don't have an affinity for. And what I did is create these freedom rules that allowed me to separate myself from all those things that I didn't do well or I shouldn't have been doing in my business. And it's kind of a selection process of deciding which you should do yourself, which you should delegate to others, what you should automate, or what you should eliminate. And if you can combine that with good time blocking, great people, and some excellent processes, you get complete freedom. And a lot of it though for us owners is it's all up there. If we don't give ourselves permission and say to ourselves, we trained people well, we gave them the tools, and we gave them processes to work with, then we're never going to be free. So we have to give ourselves the permission that we did okay to pass it on.
So easy to say, so hard to do. That old adage of only do what only you can do.
Yes.
And then, like you said, delegate, automate, etc. Yes, sometimes we just need that business coach to hold our feet to the fire, even if we've heard it before, but to actually do it are two different things, right?
Oh, you're absolutely right. Like I have to say, everything I did in my business to grow, even though I did the work, I had to hire a coach. I had to hire people outside of me. I had to get mentorship. I had to read. I had to learn what's, from those who've walked it before. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is the accountability. Now, I don't think I had coaches who cracked the whip as much as they just set an appointment. And I was just too proud not to accomplish a whole pile of stuff in between the two meetings. So, a coach will hold you accountable in so many ways. And that's a real key part of it, because if you're just running your own domain, and you don't look outside for wisdom and objective input, you're just not going to be running as efficiently and as effectively as you can.
Right, right. And you seem like you kind of came full circle. You were already on the give philosophy side of things before going into business coaching. So that last area in your philosophy, you talk about big impact giving and kind of a process for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So my big impact giving process really originally in the financial services world really surrounded itself with financial products, giving money. And that was kind of the original intent, was how do I give $1 million, right? So it was really around the financial part and charitable giving. Mm-hmm. As time went on and as I turned my attention more to coaching, one of the things I realized, and this is the great thing of time, you get a little wisdom every once in a while, you learn things that you never knew, and you learn more that you don't know anything going forward. But what I did find is that we have to really look at ourselves as if a first responder or a first aid care would apply. And that is, if we're not well, we can't possibly give in the way that we'd hope. We can't make the impact we'd hope. So my big impact giving process starts with you, starts with us, right? Is your mental wellness, is your physical wellness, is that in check? And if it is, then you can reach out a little further and touch your family and find out if your family's well or your family life is healthy in those relationships. And you can go a little further and see if your community, because if you're a business owner, you couldn't have done it without the community, be it online, offline, geographical. You can't do it without your community, so you better be healthy in that relationship as well. And then lastly, you can give to causes that matter in an impactful way. Doesn't mean you can't just give all along, but if you really want to have impact, we have to take a lot more time and energy to focus on how we're going to do that in a way that's, significant versus not. I used to always brag about the fact that at the end of my financial services career, I could take someone who was giving $1,500 a year to charity, and we could turn that into a $150,000 gift with the right planning, right? And in addition, we'd save them taxes and we'd fulfill some of their financial goals. But the key is you can't get great leverage without good planning. And so that all encompasses on the give back. If you don't plan it out, you're not going to have such success.
Well, and I was really impressed to see that I think at least 4 or 5 of your 25 tips in this whole give area of the book are exactly that. It's don't forget to take care of yourself first,
right.
Whether it's diet, exercise, sleep, overall health in general, which is really the philosophy of my podcast, Mind, Money, Motion. It's all so interrelated. The more we take care of ourselves physically and healthfully, then life costs less, right? It's less costly to live healthy. But then you're right, then you are better able to serve and give back and make that impact. And it's kind of ironic how so many of these cliches in life are so true. The whole, if mama ain't healthy, ain't nobody healthy.
That's so true. That's
don't
true
forget
in our
to
household.
take care of yourself first, right? Mind,
Yep.
body, money, etc. So I commend you for incorporating that. I think I see too many business owners work themselves so hard that their health just goes out the window and they're not around as long to do all of the things that they had envisioned because of that.
You'll understand this because we also moved kind of in the last few years. We moved geographically, and it was a big upheaval from where we'd been for 48 years. And we moved to the West Coast from Alberta, Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And how you just, and why I say you relate is one of the things for me that made it so easy to make that move, because that was a challenging. You have a certain amount of an element of business going and networks, then you just uproot them, right? But it was easy for me to make because I was hearkening back to when I was in the financial service industry, and in 1 year I lost 3 clients to unexpected tragedy, death, and various other things. I had a number of my peers and clients fall ill out of the blue. They were ill prepared, and the things we were talking about, they never did, right? And I just realized that life is so short. If you're not well, you're not healthy. And I joke, like I didn't extend my life, but I did probably add 20 better years by making a decision on a lifestyle basis. And so your mind, money, motion is all about the fact that, there's so much more to either our financial or business well-being. If we're not well, generally, we're not going to have the same kind of enjoyment. Or, hey, what's it worth? If, there's no one I've ever met in their 80s or 90s or 70s, their last few days, or the 50s, unfortunately, which are the people I was dealing with and I talked about. None of them said, I wish I would have worked another day in the office or put another hour in. None of them they never said, I wish I had more money, because it didn't matter anymore at that point. None of it mattered, but they really wish they would have had more peace of mind, more impact, and more connection. And so if we're not doing that around our whole life, we're missing something.
Very, very wise. We get older and wiser. My mother always used to say, too soon old, too late smart.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
And it is the truth. So kudos to you for getting wiser sooner and making a bigger impact. So as our listeners are hearing this and they want some more, they want access to all of those tips, what's the best way for them to reach you, to find out more, to get your book and continue on with this conversation?
Well, I know my name's here on the screen. It isn't easy to spell, but if they simply want to reach out to me and maybe get 20 minutes and just chat and catch up and get to know each other, just email me at info@mikeskrypnek.com. Or dial in that name to Google, and you're not going to find anyone else. You're just on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube. You'll find me, and just reach out, message me, and we'll connect and we'll begin a dialogue. And maybe it's just a text dialogue, maybe it's direct, but whatever it is, you can find me, and you can find my book, as you mentioned, Marie, on Amazon.com, Entrepreneur Secrets to a Grow, Get, Give Life.
Awesome. And we'll have all of that in the show notes so that folks don't have to search too far once they're listening to the podcast. We try to be helpful that way. So
That's great.
well, thank you, Mike. This has been very helpful for our listeners, I think, to kind of listen to all the different areas and in a nutshell format. You've really laid it out nicely with your Grow, Get, Give, and have had some great tips. So just remember, listeners, that's the tip of the iceberg. What? I should have tallied it up. There must be 60 plus tips in your book.
There's over 90.
Oh, okay.
It's just too big, but it is laid out like a manual, so you really can go through and go, I need that today,
Yes.
and it works. So
Yes, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, and keep doing good in the world.
my pleasure, and I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for having me, Marie.